Hello, good evening, and welcome to Blackmail. No, this is not Blackmail. This is International Flavor. I am Samuel Trapp. You are listening to Damn Radio, and I'm very glad that you are. Thanks for joining us in today. And if you feel like calling, please do at 573-746-8020. There's plenty to discuss today, but feel free to join us in at your convenience. And if I'm able to take the call, well, then I shall. That's what I shall do. If not, then of course I won't. And I've been paying a lot of attention to international news today and some of the nonsensical nonsense that is being cast about as the world, I don't know what, writhes in agony over the massive problems that confront it, I guess. And it's just amazing to me that we are, I don't know what happened to my password, it's different, but that we are now unable to cope, it sounds like. And I have plenty to discuss, plenty to show you, and I want to start with, I think, I would like to start with the vast news coming upon us from the other side of the world. I've had some comments about mobilization, as they call it, in Ukraine, and what they are doing to their own citizens in furtherance of this mobilization effort, in an effort to get enough people to continue to throw to the front lines. And Ukrainians are very much against the mobilization, the forced mobilization of their youth. There's a lot of people who do not wish to be associated with war. They're not warriors. They, as a concept, mobilization or drafting people to serve in the military is far less effective than having a volunteer military of people who at least want to be there. Now, that is what is happening in Russia. Now, Russia for years has always had mobilization. If I recall correctly, they do it twice a year, that they mobilize, and if they don't have the numbers, then they mobilize however many people that they need for whatever conflict or replenishment of forces that have retired or left service or whatever, to keep the minimum statistics for the army going forward. Now, America hasn't done that in years. We've had no forced mobilization, no forced draft. You have to register for the draft, but you don't have to show up for the draft. So far, since the Vietnam days, we haven't done that. And there's been a lot of talk in Ukraine. I've spoken about it quite a bit on this program, where the people who they are mobilizing are between the ages of 25 and 55, 60 if you used to serve as an officer. And they're picking them up off the streets. They're taking them from restaurants, from clubs. They haven't yet gone into breaking into apartments to attack people. And what it's led to is a lot of people are hiding out in their own homes and are not leaving because they do not want to be mobilized, or a great deal of graft and corruption, that people are paying off these these people, these mobilizing. They're not recruiters because they aren't recruiting anyone. They are mobilizing them and forcibly. And the number of videos that you can see on people's Telegram channels all over Ukraine are ridiculous. They are they're violent. They're very, very violent. And they beat the crap out of these guys. They really mess them up. And there will be 3-4 of them jump out of a minivan, take a man in front of his wife, his kids, his whatever, and just beat the crap out of them and throw them in the van. And so there's been plenty of videos of this. And the way out of it, pay. The number that I've heard many times is about $5,000 to get out of that, and then $8,000 to $10,000 to be able to get out of the country, to pay the border guards. These are the numbers that are floated around. And then if you can get to the West somewhere, you start getting free money. Like if you can come to the U.S., you can get on the U4U program and start getting food stamps, start getting Social Security, start getting all those other things. And in Europe, they get even more. In the U.S., it goes for longer and they get less. But in, I've shown you videos before that people are talking about, they're refugees. And remember the one I showed you about the girl in China who was a Ukrainian, and she says, we just love it here. We love that we're here. We've only been here 2 days, and we've had some fantastic food. We've had this, we've had that. But we have to leave. We got to go somewhere where they will give us money to be refugees, because here they say we have to work. So China won't let you in unless you're not getting free money from the government because you left your country. I dislike that we pay people to leave their own countries. Why don't, if you're so hell-bent on protecting your country, freaking stay there and protect it. But no, that's okay as long as someone else is doing the fighting, and that is the truth. And so there's plenty of that going on, and a lot of these horror stories go around and the videos are seen. So there was one today where this video is the worst I have seen, and there's a younger man, and I wish you, I don't always speak Ukrainian, but there's a mix of Ukrainian and Russian in this video, and it's about 3 minutes long. It came off a Telegram, and the people that are showing it, and they believe the guy has died as a result of the fierce beating that he took. And I watched the video, and that boy ain't moving, and they beat the snot out of him right there, and we don't get that. And then the guy who did most of the beating, you can see him running away in the distance, and all the surrounding people that are standing around talking about it are yelling, no, he was the one who did it. He was the one. And this guy is messed up. And so that's this forceful mobilization in Ukraine. Disturbing video, it says. Watch what you're watching here. Man reportedly dies. Video published in Ukrainian media appears to show recruitment officers trying to revive a man they were going to mobilize. A Ukrainian man allegedly died following an encounter with recruitment officers who tried to take him to a draft office as part of forceful mobilization. Strana.ua has reported. Strana and strana are the same word, but strana means strange and strana means country. The outlet also published a disturbing video said to be taken at the scene. It appears to be. This is taken by somebody on Telegram, and there's a good number of people standing around watching and yelling at people and whatnot. So it's excuse me so much. Sorry, but bless me. There you go. I'll bless myself, and that will be that. The incident reportedly took place in the town of Sukhoi Liman in Ukraine's southern Odessa region. The clip, published by Strana UA and a local Odessa Info Telegram channel on Friday, starts with a man sitting on the ground and not moving. This guy doesn't move an ounce at all. A group of men wearing military fatigues can be seen standing nearby. Civilians in the video refer to them as recruitment officers. Some people accuse them of beating the recruit before he fell unconscious, something the draft officers deny. The onlookers also claim that one of the officers was seen beating an elderly woman in the area. The would-be recruit is then seen falling to the ground. The man shows no sign of life as he is lying unresponsive with his eyes wide open. "It's over, he is dead," the people in the crowd can be heard saying, some of them accusing the officers of beating him to death. One of the draft officers tries to revive the man with a heart massage to no effect. And this guy, he sure looks dead to me in the video. Eyes wide open. Regional Draft Office denies any wrongdoing on the part of its staff and said the incident was simulated. The man in the video was detained for a violation of military registration rules, it stated on its Facebook page. The man first acted aggressively toward the officers and then simulated a loss of consciousness, the office said, and asserted without showing evidence that the man's health condition is satisfactory. According to Strana.ua, the Ukrainian authorities provide no other comments on the incident or the fate of the man in the video. Following the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022, Ukraine declared general mobilization. That was age 27 to 55. Later, they lowered the mobilization to age 25 and toughened penalties for draft evasion last year amid widespread draft dodging and desertion. Allegedly, there's 500,000 draft dodgers in a separate article. They talk about that. Ukrainian recruitment officers, and these are people who want to take care of their own country, right? These are people who can't field an army without beating the hell out of people. And nobody wants to fight for their own country, but they'll all leave and talk about patriotism and how Slava Ukraini everywhere, and they say nothing. We hate Putin. We hate this. Well, if you hate him, go freaking fight. It's your country, But oh no, American money, American intelligence, American equipment. NATO, you go and whine all over the world I'm talking about Zelensky, the Green Goblin, gets to run all over the planet and whine till he gets, more money, more arms, but none of his people are fighting. He's gotten rich off of this and is continuing to do so. Trump has an issue ahead, and Trump, he has actually had this issue since he started, and every day it gets worse. Every day it becomes more and more the war of Trump than the war of Biden. The longer he lets this go, the longer he stays associated, the longer he doesn't put these warmongers in their place, the more it becomes his war. He tried the other day. He changed his tune a little bit when he was coming out of his... or maybe he was on Air Force One. I think he was on Air Force One when they were talking about it, and he was going, "No, this is Biden's war. This isn't my war." He's already feeling it. It's because he's already having to start justifying or reminding people that it's not his war. But we're not. Are we 100 days in yet, JR? I don't know. I didn't have a chance to listen to. I only listened to about half of your show today, and I don't remember what day you said it was. But I think it's. We're almost to the point where this has become, or is quickly becoming, Trump's war. Trump's war. Ukrainian recruitment officers have also been employing increasingly harsh tactics to replenish army's ranks. Numerous videos have emerged on social media over the past months showing Ukrainian conscription officers grabbing men on the streets, beating them, and driving them away in minibuses to recruitment centers. There have been reports of injuries and deaths among conscripts who resist attempts to be mobilized. And the amount of people, they say there's 500,000 draft dodgers, according to the military. That's a totally different article. Ukrainians are evading army service en masse amid the country's mobilization. Around 500,000 Ukrainian men are suspected of evading conscription. Now remember, there's at least 100,000 who have deserted, who after being conscripted, after being sent to the front, are leaving and are figuring out how to escape, or are running across the border. They and over 100,000 have been charged with the crime of desertion. They're being charged with the crime of desertion. Media communications officer Natalia Kindrativ told Kiev FM radio on Wednesday that over 500,000 draft-dodging warrants have been filed since the escalation of the conflict with Russia in February 2022. Since that time, Ukraine has declared a general mobilization, lowered the conscription age to 25 from 27, and toughened penalties for draft evasion to address troop shortages. However, the military has continued to face personnel challenges, and recruitment officers are using increasingly harsher tactics. Enlistment offices have filed search notices for over 500,000 people, Kindrativ said, adding that searches are carried out by Ukrainian National Police as conscription officers lack the authority to pursue them. She added, however, that police resources are limited, which make it challenging to locate such a large number of people. In order to tackle the problem, law enforcement has been enlisting investigators and forming task forces to help in the effort. Kindrativ emphasized that men aged 25 to 60 are subject to mobilization under Ukrainian law, but noted that conscription officers are empowered to check documents of males as young as 18. She clarified that the police are not allowed to search for draft dodgers in their homes, but only in public places. If a person does not have a deferment or reservation and is deemed fit for service, they are called up. All healthy individuals are mobilized. Boy, I'd hate to be a healthy individual at my age. I'm not 60 yet, but I'm pretty damn close. They'd mobilize my ass, that's for sure. Because I can't claim that I'm totally disabled. I can't do it. Crazy sauce on army, and the average army age, the average age of a soldier in Ukraine is 47. 40 freaking 7. Isn't that nuts? Under Ukraine's martial law and general mobilization regulation, conscription officers can look for citizens between ages 25 and 60 who are believed to have violated registration rules. Those declared wanted can resolve the issue by voluntarily appearing at a conscription center with the necessary documents. Numerous videos on social media over the last year have shown officers forcibly detaining men on the streets and taking them to recruitment centers. After beating the crap out of them most of the time, street raids to find potential recruits have purportedly led to violent clashes, with some incidents resulting in injury and death. I saw one last week that there was a guy who was laying on the ground, 3 recruitment officers outside of a gray minivan, all in a battle dress uniform, BDUs, fatigues, all in army clothes. Were kicking the crap out of him, all 3 of them, kicking him. Then one of them would lead down and beat him, punched him in the face. And this lady's running up, taking the video, and she's yelling at him, taking the video. There's nobody there in the photo. There isn't a soul on the streets, and it's a residential area. And there's nobody on the streets except this van. and this guy getting the crap kicked out of him. I don't mean to laugh about it, but damn, it's crazy what they were going through, and or what he was going through. The other people are just having their fun kicking the crap out of him, and so. At any rate, this lady comes running up and is videoing it all and starts going, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? How bad are you treating him? Why are you beating the hell out of him?" And well, these people are scared of having all of these things put out on social media. And so they immediately, all three of them, heard her say, "Oh, no, it wasn't. We weren't." And they got in the car. They got in the car and drove away, and the kid ran off, and he seemed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 30, but he took off running, and who knows, maybe next time they'll catch him, who knows, and they'll just, next time he steps outside, they'll beat the crap out of him again. Must be a shitty life, pardon my French on that one, but to have to run away every day and avoid these goon squads that are out kicking the crap out of you. Or if you don't have any money to run to the U.S., you got to pay to get out of the country, and you can't cross the border without having the $10,000. So the only people that are crossing the border are the people who have sold their apartment. Now you can't sell apartments if it's in a war zone, but you can sell them everywhere else. And so there's people are selling and leaving, and then taking whatever freebies that the government will give you when you get to your new host country, and all the freebies in the world are available to you. And it's especially in the United States and especially in Europe, but it's our war; it's not theirs. So part of you can't blame them for what they're going through, but it is pretty much a horror story. Let's see. In addition to draft dodging, Ukraine's military has faced a rise in desertions. According to Bloomberg, nearly 96,000 criminal cases have been opened against servicemen who abandoned their positions since 2022, most of them in the last year. President Vladimir Zelensky recently acknowledged the increase in desertions, but insists that the numbers have been declining since the peak in autumn. That number, the 96,000, is not the same number that their own Duma reported. They were reporting 120 late last year. Maybe they're talking about the reduced number even now of what it is, and I don't know. It's either way, these are horror stories, ladles and jelly spoons. Let's see. And there was also, even among their elite units, there's two more. This is a long topic, but damn, when you think about this, and you think about Ukrainians not wanting to fight for their own country, they aren't committed to this. Why would anyone else be? And they don't trust their own leadership. Why should anyone else? That's my point, is you keep having all these flowery words from all the same people who make all the same money from all of these horror stories. All those people are all, hoorah, more war, hoorah, Sergeant, but not so the people who have to go out and fight. These people, it's the same old thing. You're an armchair patriot, no problem. I'll be an armchair patriot. But boy, if you're not getting your freebies from the country of China because you're a refugee, boy, we got to move to Finland. They'll give us everything. We got to move back to a European country. They'll pay for us. We've worked. What'd that girl say? We've been 2 years as refugees in other countries, and we haven't had to work at all. And she's just 22, 23. She's very young. And so, yeah, that's it. Let's teach our kids to leave their own countries, go somewhere else, pay them to do so, and live better than the young kids in their own country. like the U.S. And I'm not saying they all are. It's not all of them. There are people who come over and don't take advantage of all the crap that they could get. But frankly, if the U.S. government is stupid enough to give it out to you, why wouldn't you take it as a Ukrainian who leaves their own country? Why wouldn't you? I can't necessarily fault them. I can laugh about how foolish it is, that we continue to finance this nonsense, and I can laugh about the armchair patriots that come over here, but it's more of a cynical laugh than a different laugh. Just say, man, this is total crap is what this is. So at any rate, I want to talk about the Ukraine probing the skyrocketing can't speak today. Skyrocketing desertion from its own elite units. It's yet again, here we go. Earlier media reports claimed that 1,700 troops left the French-trained 155th Brigade before any of them saw combat. Remember me telling you about this? This was about a month ago. This specially trained France unit of 5,500, 1,700 of them left training before they ever were going to get sent back. They just didn't go back to Ukraine. 1,700, a third of the brigade, basically. Ukraine has launched an investigation into the desertions within its elite Western-trained 155th Brigade, says Tatiana Sapien, the spokeswoman for the State Bureau of Investigations. Sapien made the Sapien. I want to make sure I say it right, and I'm not sure I am. Made the announcement Thursday, saying, according to Interfax, the Bureau is looking into allegations of dismal conditions in the brigade. Well, they're dismal everywhere. Potential abuse of authority and mass desertion. The announcement followed a scathing assessment of the French-trained unit by Yuri Butusov, editor-in-chief of the Ukrainian outlet Censor.net, in which he described the unit as being plagued by systematic issues, including the removal of some service members from the brigade for use elsewhere. So they made this elite brigade, and they were all going to fight together, and then they divided them all up and told them they were going to different units. I mean, that's not really helpful. Overall disorganization and the lack of armaments, no drones, has severely undermined the brigade's capability. According to Butusov, 1,700 soldiers left the unit before the brigade fired its first shots in combat, adding that some deserted the unit while it was still in France. Last month, the Ukraine's MP Maria Bezuglia described the unit as a zombie brigade that only exists on paper and has no real value. The French Defense Ministry refrained from commenting directly on the desertion allegations, noting that it was the armed forces of Ukraine that organized the selection of Ukrainian military personnel to form the brigade and manage the process. Last December, Ukraine's prosecutor general reported a sharp increase in desertion cases, and with over 96,000 investigations initiated. According to Bloomberg, Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky acknowledges the increase, blah, blah, blah. We already heard all that part. And that, I hate to laugh about it, but damn, you can't field your own army. They're not into this. Why should we be, is my point. So I don't know. I'm hopeful that this war will end sometime before too long. And I want to change the topic a little bit. Still on Ukraine. And still there's like 3-4 articles I want to go through. One of them, of the old Z-Man, the old Green Goblin, lashing out at Trump envoy Witkoff. He has been very vocal in the last few days about it. I told you a little bit about some of the things he said yesterday. Well, he's done it again, the old Green Goblin. He's very much interested in everyone knowing that he's in charge, that he is the guy that is in charge. Like I said before, I believe this has become, or is becoming quickly, Trump's war, and not Biden's. He's not going to be able to do that much longer if he doesn't say something, do something. I think that do something, and do something along the lines of, we're no longer going to fund this nonsense. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I also saw articles about new packages, new sanctions against Russia. I think we just need to back away. I read an interesting article about all of these tariffs and the anti-China rhetoric that's going on in America. And we even had a discussion with someone yesterday about the percentage of trade that the U.S. shares on a global basis, and the percent of Chinese trade that is represented by the United States, 16, almost 17%. And I think that China is prepared to go different places. I just heard that they canceled, that China has announced 3 different years, 3 different companies, 3 different airlines canceling 3 years worth of planes, like some 20-something a year, against Boeing and U.S. directly because of sanctions, and they are canceled, and they're going to order their planes from elsewhere. And so that will cost, and that is not bringing manufacturing back home. That is losing the manufacturing. Now, who knows where all the Boeing planes are actually manufactured, but a lot of that money comes back here. Boeing is an American company, and those planes were to be purchased according to contracts that were already in place with the Chinese companies and governments. And so that is an important development. And I heard a very interesting I suppose, commentary that somebody thought that we should, in fact, go into more business with Russia. More business with Russia. And instead of with China, more with Russia. And that would be a better method of working together and working with someone more similar to us, I suppose you could call it that way. And I think that's a good result, or could be. But let's talk about the lashing out by Zelensky against Trump envoy Steve Witkoff. Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff has no mandate to discuss territorial issues between Moscow and Kiev, says Vladimir Zelensky. Statement came in response to a journalist's question during a press conference alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Odessa on Tuesday. The Ukrainian leader was asked to comment on Witkoff's recent remarks that a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine revolves around 5 territories. Here's what he said. Ukraine is a sovereign state, and all territories belong to the unitary state of Ukraine. And therefore, only the people of Ukraine can speak about the territories of our state, said Zelensky. Recognizing any former Ukrainian regions as belonging to Russia is another red line for Kiev. He added, therefore, the representative you mentioned is discussing issues outside of his competence. This is not the first time that Zelensky has lashed out at Witkoff. Last month, he accused the envoy of parroting Kremlin narratives. I'm sure he'd jump all over me as the Kremlin parrot. You know what? That'd be a good name to call yourself on YouTube or something, or as a handle. You could call yourself the Kremlin parrot and just spout off, take Putin's words every day and re-say them. That would be a lot of fun. Last week, Witkoff met Russian President Putin in St. Petersburg in the third direct talks between the two since February, which come as part of Trump's effort toward ending the Ukraine conflict. Key part of the deal would have to involve recognition of Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, Zaporizhia as part of Russia, the envoy told Fox News in an interview on Tuesday. Well, there's nothing but problems coming from Ukraine. Ukraine has no desire to shut down this war, no desire to stop. I watched quite a few people on the street interviews from last week, and I was surprised. Now, it was a Ukrainian journalist who was out wandering the streets of Ukraine and was asking Ukrainians whether they thought that the war should end, and they all say no, that they have talked to. Now, I've heard that there's only about 40% that want to continue the war and that would prefer that it was over, even if it meant losing some territories. But this one that I saw today, it was at least 30 people that they talked to and said, what do you think of the war? Oh, it'll never end. Oh, we'll never give up. And words to that effect everywhere. They will do. I have something else to talk about in that regard. Other man on the street interviews that have been going on, because there's another big topic that I want to get to. But these people, if you believe the appropriate, if you believe everything that's being said on these videos, and I believe a good amount of it seemed to be pretty basic. It didn't seem like AI generated or anything like that. These people that are still there, and mostly it was women because there are no men on the street. They were saying, what do you think? And there's, oh, no, we'll never give up. Now they're all in Western Ukraine. This guy was in Lvov talking about it. Eastern Ukraine, they might have a different thought process. But I don't know. It's these people, at least they're living there as they are patriots for the Ukrainian cause, and so more power to them, because they're still there, at least present, fighting for their own country. And their men are not there. Their men are taken into custody and fighting on their behalf. So however that works out, we shall have to see. Let's see. Crimea joined Russia in 2014 after a referendum, while the other regions were added in 2022. While many more complicated issues need to be resolved, the negotiations may be on the cusp of something very, very important for the world at large, said Witkoff. Moscow stressed that it has always been open to peace talks, provided that any deal addressed the key causes of the conflict. Russia maintains that NATO need to demilitarize, denazify, maintain neutrality, stay out of NATO, and recognize territorial realities on the ground. I don't know how many times we have to repeat that exact same paragraph, but it's pretty regular that it gets repeated. What else that we were going to talk about? Okay, so the Polish... The Polish are always very eager to help, as it were, to help in Ukraine, and have also taken in their share. I want to say the last number I saw was 2 million refugees from Ukraine. But things are changing. They've cut a lot of programs for refugee status, people that come into the country from Ukraine. They are said to be sending back draft age men. There was some talk of that over a time period. And here's the new news. Polish deputy minister wants to help take over a key Ukrainian port. And where? On the Black Sea. Warsaw should control a wharf in Odessa, said a top Polish agriculture official. Poland should acquire a section of Ukraine's Black Sea port of Odessa to transport grain. Polish Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mikhail Kolodziejczyk, has said. Odessa, founded by the Russian Empire in 1794 on the site of a Turkish fortress, is a globally important port for the export of grain, corn, sunflower oil. This is what I want to propose, he said. Why don't we talk to the Ukrainians about selling us a wharf or leasing it to us for 50 years so that the Poles could have their own grain port? Now, the Poles have a port. They touch the Baltic, do they not? At any rate, the official told Polsat News on Friday. Such a place could be found, for example, in Odessa, where Polish and European grain may be transported. This way, we will secure access to the Black Sea, he added. He suggested that the port could be used to export the grain from southeastern Poland. So this is what it's all about. I've been saying this for a long time. The British have put a ton of money into Odessa and have over the years. The U.S. too, by the way, trying to have their own access. Trump is talking about it. If the war doesn't end soon, or if we don't force it to end soon by cutting them off, my prediction is that Russia takes over Odessa as well. That there will be, whether through referendum or not, none of the other countries gone after, they've all been through referenda. Those are all former Russian heavy populations, just like Odessa. And if Odessa had a referendum, I still think the bulk would support Russia, and that Russia would take over that spot too. I know they've been bombing the crap out of any Western sites inside of Odessa for the last 2 years, and they're continuing to up the hostilities in Odessa as far as blowing stuff up. And I don't believe that they will ever allow a port city to be controlled by Poland. In not Witkoff, but in Kellogg's genius idea was to make it France and England, with Ukraine, having a little part too, but we all know that they don't control their own processes. So that would be definitely France and England controlling that part, hopefully to get access as well to the Black Sea and to the port in Odessa. Just like your risk game, this is what it's come down to, is we're playing a risk game. These are all just little playing pieces on the field. These aren't lives we're talking about. These aren't, and we're all presuming that nothing will happen if we do that, and that Russia will just go, oh, come on in, have a port that we built, that the Russian Empire built in 1794 on the side of a Turkish fortress. Why don't we do that? Good idea. The deputy minister also said that he was afraid of Ukraine joining the EU because we don't know what will happen. Oh, you know exactly what will happen. If only we had this on a platter. 500,000 hectares in Ukraine for Polish breeding companies, he added. He argued that if Ukraine joined the EU, its citizens should be banned from investing in Polish agriculture for 10 years. Kiev applied to join the bloc in 2022, and Brussels formally launched accession negotiations in December of 2023. Russia has repeatedly struck the infrastructure of the port of Odessa, which it said was being used by the Ukrainian army to launch seaborne kamikaze drones. In July 2022, Russia and Ukraine reached a UN-backed agreement to allow the safe passage of grain ships from Ukraine. Moscow, however, withdrew from the deal in 2023, accusing the West of failing to lift sanctions related to that. The Kremlin said last month that it would return to the deal if the West removed sanctions on Sovkholozbank and companies involved in food and fertilizer export. Russia and the U.S. are still currently discussing maritime truce as step toward comprehensive ceasefire. But Ukraine's never going to agree to it, and now Poland is saying that Ukraine can't invest in any of their activities, and they want a piece of the port in Odessa. That's somehow I see that as a bit of a red line myself. A couple other things that are of interest to me. The UK, have you heard this? That in the UK, the Supreme Court has ruled on what the definition of a woman is. And I haven't heard anything about it in the U.S. yet, but it's in other sites that are in other parts of the world. They've been talking about it, and this is it's a positive story for once, and it is. Frankly, I'm a little bit on the surprised side of this. Basically, the UK Supreme Court rules on the definition of woman. What does it mean? A campaign group in Scotland had challenged the government's attempts to allow transgender individuals into roles reserved for women. So, this story is a result here. The UK Supreme Court ruled on Wednesday that the term woman refers to biological sex and not gender identity, meaning that transgender individuals who were born male are not legally considered women for the purpose of single-sex protection. The ruling comes after the For Women Scotland rights campaign challenged a Scottish government law aimed at increasing the number of women on public boards, which included transgender women with legal recognition as a female. The group claimed that this violated the UK-wide Equality Act of 2010, a law that protects people from discrimination based on characteristics like sex, race, disability. They asked the UK Supreme Court to confirm that woman in the Act means biological female, not someone assigned female status through a gender recognition certificate. In its judgment, the court stated that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act of 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex, adding that interpreting sex to include acquired gender would lead to incoherence in provisions protecting women on the basis of pregnancy, maternity, and other sex-specific criteria. By the way, this was a 5-0 ruling. A government spokesman responding to the judgment stated that the ruling brings clarity and confidence for women and service providers such as hospitals, refuges, sports clubs. The spokesperson added that single-sex spaces are protected in law and will always be protected by this government. I think that means bathrooms, friends and neighbors. Lord Hodge, one of the presiding justices, noted that the court did not view the ruling as a triumph of one group over another, and that it was simply necessary to provide legal clarity on the meaning of terms in existing legislation. British author J.K. Rowling, one of the most prominent supporters of Women for Scotland, hailed the court's ruling. It took 3 extraordinary, tenacious Scottish women with an army behind them to get this case heard by the Supreme Court. And in winning, they've protected the rights of women and girls across the UK, she said on X. Some, however, have criticized the Supreme Court decision. Oh, gee, there's a surprise. Claiming it could reduce legal recognition for transgender people. The Scottish Greens issued a statement slamming the ruling, calling it deeply concerning for human rights. LGBTQ plus charity Stonewall expressed deep concern at the widespread implication of the move. What are you losing, folks? This is my question. What are these widespread implications of the ruling? That you don't get, I mean, you're born. It doesn't change. I don't care who you want to identify as. You can identify as a cat. That was pretty funny, actually. I saw a video late at night, not sleeping, flipping through videos and on YouTube, and there's one of a policeman walks up to a window and a guy says he can't give his license because he identifies as a cat. And there's another person in the car. This is a big fat dude, younger kid, 20s somewhere, and he's in the car with somebody else. And somebody else is sitting in the car is a woman. You don't see her in the photo, but she's the one taking the video. And and they were against this. They were slamming what the policeman was doing by not allowing him to be recognized as a cat. And so, it was pretty comical because what the girl was sitting there filming, and and he said, "Is this your girlfriend?" And he says, and I wish I'd remember the exact words. She goes, "No, it's not my girlfriend. She's my keeper. Like I'm her pet." Is basically what he was saying. She's my master. And she goes, "Yes, my pronouns are master and whatever, and his pronoun is cat, kitty, whatever. Those are his pronouns." And the officer says, "Well, then," the officer says, "Well, then, cats aren't allowed to drive cars in England, and I'm going to take you into custody. And if you're a cat, then you can't be out driving cars, and you can't there was something else. You can't be out wandering the streets without a license, and if you don't have tags on, you haven't been registered as a cat, and so therefore I have to take you into custody and we'll put you in the kennel, and your master can come pick you up at the kennel and pay the $70 to collect you." And pay $70 to collect you at the kennel, and we'll impound your car during that time because it was being operated by a cat. And so I don't know if they changed their tune or not, but they showed that video and whether it was made up or not, I don't care. It was pretty damn funny, But if people are taking, it looked like some guy who might claim that he's a cat in order to, I don't know why it would be important to be a cat, especially if it means you can't drive. But I thought the whole damn thing was pretty comical, and I actually did watch it to the end. So that was entertaining. And finally, I wanted to get to this little bit of news that is the ruble is this year's best performing currency. According to who? Bloomberg. The Russian currency has posted strong gains against the US dollar and has outshone even gold, says data. The Russian ruble has emerged as the world's top performing currency this year, outpacing even gold. Wow, said Bloomberg on Tuesday, citing calculations based on over-the-counter market data. The ruble has surged 38% against the US dollar, marking the strongest gains of any currency so far this year. It has also outperformed gold, long seen as a safe haven asset, which has risen to 23% has risen 23% to record highs since January. Analysts cite a combination of geopolitical developments and monetary policy decisions by the Bank of Russia as key drivers of the ruble performance. Unlike many emerging market currencies, the ruble is not facing pressure from capital outflow caused by global investors' retreat from riskier assets, says Sofia Danetz, an economist at T Investments, noting that capital controls have largely shielded Russia from any of this. Well, that's because Russia does everything, not everything, but the bulk of it is, whether you want to call them cut off or independent, what Trump is trying to do for us is bring it back to where we take care of ourselves and are independent. Russia already is, okay? That's where they're going with that. Other economists pointed to high borrowing costs. In October, the Bank of Russia hiked its benchmark interest rate to 21% to curb inflation and has held steady on it since. This move dampened demands for imports and, by extension, foreign currency. Meanwhile, Russia has one of the lowest national debts in the world. Meanwhile, regulations requiring exporters to convert a portion of their foreign earnings to rubles, a measure introduced in response to Western sanctions, have further strengthened the currency. So if you want to be McDonald's and you want to go over there and invest your dollars, you can't do it until you convert your dollars to rubles. Also, very, very smart, analysts cite improved U.S.-Russia relations spurred by joint efforts to resolve the Ukraine conflict as boosting foreign investor interest in Russian market and the ruble. Iskander Lutsko, the head of research at Istar Capital, said international investors are increasingly turning to countries that maintain ties with Moscow to access high-yielding ruble assets. He predicted that the conditions currently boosting the ruble are likely to persist for some time. There are no clear drivers for the ruble's weakening at this stage, with rate cut off the table for the upcoming quarter, said Lutsko. The ruble rally comes amid a weakening U.S. dollar, which hit a 6-month low on Monday, following tariff hikes announced by Washington. And earlier this month, U.S. President Trump introduced reciprocal tariffs on 90 trade partners, citing unfair trade practices. While Trump paused most of the new tariffs for 90 days, except on China, global financial markets take a beating as a result. Economists say U.S. President's action have shaken investor faith in U.S. assets and cast doubt on the dollar and treasuries as reliable safe havens. Well, I agree with that. The ruble, however, has been relatively immune to the tariff war because Russia has not been targeted. I find those to be very interesting. Well, what I think I would like to spend the rest of the show on, I may have to look for some, and I may pay some video on it, is something that for me is very, very negative, and I take a very dim view of it. And there's two related kind of topics. The 80th anniversary of the end of World War II is coming up on May 1st, May 9th. It's Russia celebrates May 9th as Dien Pobiedy, Victory Day, on May 9th. And it is, the first parts of May are very, very holiday related in Russia. And even in the Soviet Union always were. And I have in my possession, which I bought in 1992 in Russia, in Moscow, on the Arbat in Arbatskaya Ulitsa, which is a street where they have lots of shopping and markets and people selling stuff that they've made. Lots of artists are there, and lots of things are being sold, historical items, And I bought a bunch of Russian and Soviet posters, stamps, currency, money, paintings, and a 2 meter by 1 meter parade flag, a Soviet Union parade flag, original, gold tassels all the way around, velvet on both sides, with a picture of Lenin on one side and the seal of the Soviet Union, and on the other side, the what do they call it? The crest of the Soviet Union on the other side, and in 15 languages, the words "Proletariat of all countries unite," in 15 languages, representing the 15 national languages of the Soviet Union that were represented. And so I have that. And Victory Day is an extremely important event. And morons abound in the EU and everywhere in the world. And there's been a lot of discussion. The Telegraph is about people not being able to participate in Victory Day parading in Russia. Now, last year, I reported quite a bit about the fact that Ukraine has torn down Victory Day. What do you call them? I want to say it in Russian. Memorials, the large statues and posters, and these things, you find them all over Russia when you travel over there. They used to be all over Ukraine, and everywhere in Eastern Europe they were located. And these Victory Day memorials were everywhere and very important. And there wasn't a family in Russia, in the Soviet Union, that was not affected by they call it the Great Patriotic War. And it didn't become the World War till the U.S. entered later, and they take the point of view, and frankly, any decent historian would as well, that Russia had been bearing the brunt of this war for 5-6 years when the U.S. finally got involved in 44 and did the push from the other side. But Russia was winning on their side of the playing field and defeating the Germans from this side, or from the eastern side. And they had 26.6 million casualties. There was not a family not touched. And so most of those people, 80 years into the future, are already dead. So people that participated in that war as very young men have all pretty much passed away, although there are still some 100-year-old veterans that did participate and that are honored. But last year there was a huge effort to not talk about this biggest of Russian holidays at all, because you want to focus only on horrible stories about Russia. You don't want to talk about the positive thing that they did in taking out Hitler. Not single-handedly, but nobody else lost 26.6 million. Nobody. There were 6 million Jews, and that's the next level of people, but those Jews were from multiple countries. Chief among them, Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, anywhere you are in Central Eastern Europe, right? And so that is the backdrop of what I want to talk to you about. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's wrong what they are stating right now about not going to or do not participate in any sort of Russian celebration is what they are talking about now. And I tell you what, here's the article from the Telegraph. Here's the Telegraph article. EU is to ban Serbia, meaning Serbia can't be a member of the EU, if Serbia's president joins Putin's victory parade. And Kaja Kallas is the one who talked about it, okay? Serbia could be blocked from joining the European Union if its president travels to Russia next month for, and get this, here's what they call it, Vladimir Putin's Victory Day Parade. This is not Vladimir Putin's Victory Day Parade. I would like nothing more than to be there for this event on Victory Day. I tell you what, I would love it. And I would put some effort into showing up, and I would never be allowed on Red Square. Those are invitation only at the people that are there. But to be anywhere in Russia for Victory Day at 80 years, this is going to be a big deal. Okay, and but notice how even the Telegraph is extremely slanted anyway, and they call it Vladimir Putin's Victory Day Parade. It's not Vladimir Putin's Victory Day Parade. It is Russia's Victory Day Parade. And this parade has been going on way before Putin was born. You know? Well, maybe not. He's 71. Is he 70 yet? I think he's 71, but don't quote me on that. So maybe not too long before he was born. But this Victory Day Parade was way before he was on the scene as president. That's for sure. Excuse me. Russian state media reports that Alexander Vucic would be one of the foreign dignitaries in attendance, as well as contributing military hardware to the spectacle on May 9th. In response, European officials warn Mr. Vucic that his visit would be a breach of the bloc's membership criteria and would derail his country's EU ambitions. Screw them. This is what I say. Screw them. We need to ensure that they understand that certain decisions come at a cost, says Jonathan Vseviov, the Secretary General of Estonia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now Estonia gets to dictate to you what you can do on Victory Day? Estonia can ignore it too. Estonia was part of Russia at the time, or the Soviet Union, and to them, are you telling me that it's not a holiday for them? They try to make it not a holiday because there ain't a person alive that doesn't know who won World War II or who the facts that I just outlined for you, that Russia lost the most, that they have the highest cost of victory against Hitler, but nobody wants to admit that part. And you certainly can't celebrate this victory, which is the biggest victory, the biggest holiday in Russia and the former Soviet Union. We need to ensure that they understand that certain decisions come at a cost. The consequences is them not joining the European Union. I tell you what, I'd say, screw that. Who cares? I don't need you. He added, Russians have been working hard to get people to attend. So for us, this would be an important litmus test. Basically, what we look at is whether or not they are on our side or playing on the other team. I tell you what, people need to decompartmentalize, because this is B-freaking-S. I think Trump should go to Victory Day. They should invite Trump to Victory Day, and he should go and celebrate the Victory Day in Russia with the Russians. I think that would be fantastic. Kaja Kallas, that genius, the bloc's top foreign diplomat, said AU foreign ministers had discussed prospective member states attending the ceremony in Moscow at a gathering on Monday. Listen to this genius. Here she goes. What we discussed very clearly and said by different member states is that any participation in May 9 parades or celebrations in Moscow will not be taken lightly on the European side, considering that Russia is really waging full-scale war in Europe, she told reporters after the meeting. Serbia has long attempted to simultaneously contemplate relations with Brussels and with Moscow. It applied to join the bloc in 2009 and was made a candidate for membership in 2012. So it takes you 12 years to become a member. Jesus, these people, they're not going to bring you in anyway. They're just looking for an excuse, is what it sounds like to me. Talks on Serbia's accession to the bloc have stalled in recent years because of its support for Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. They call it illegal invasion of Ukraine, at any point possible. Belgrade has refused to adopt Western sanctions against Russia in response to the war, which a majority of EU member states demand as criteria of membership. Russia owns Serbia's only oil refiner and is refusing to sell, leaving the Western Balkan state relying on Moscow for economic stability. Well, I take no position on that. Miss Callas, the genius, has been forced to warn other EU members not to attend Putin's Victory Day ceremony, which this year marks the 80th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany in Second World War. Slovakia, an EU country with close ties to Moscow, has also been invited to the event next month. Robert Fico, the Slovak Prime Minister, said last year that he would attend and is one of the bloc's few leaders who have met Putin in more than 3 years since he sanctioned the invasion of Ukraine. Hungary's Viktor Orban, who is considered Putin's close ally in Europe, will not be attending. Ms. Callas said, I also called all the member states, but also representatives of the institutions, to visit Kiev as much as possible to show really our solidarity and that we are with Ukraine. Ukraine didn't defeat. Ukraine fought on the side of Hitler, if you want to call it that. Their independent people fought on the side of Hitler. This is what they're teaching their children even. That the Banderovs, who by the way, killed 100,000 Polish during the war, were huge supporters. They were Nazis. That's where all these Nazi symbols come in Ukraine and where all of that is coming from. I tell you what, this is truly distressing to me. And I think nonsensical. Now, I can't change anything, of course, but I can certainly tell you my thought processes on this nonsense, which is definitely in the nonsense category. And so, I also wanted to talk to you along this same topic, and I sure wish that you could understand Polish or Russian, because there was a video. I may have found it in English as well. Let me go back to my history and see if I can locate the one that was talking about who won the war. So they were wandering around Poland, taking a survey of Polish people, and they talked to hundreds, lots, and lots of them were being talked to. And it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to locate that video that I thought may have been in. I'm pretty sure it was in Polish of what they presented, but they were wandering the streets and asking people in Poland who won World War II. So they're saying, who won World War II? So they're asking just people on the street, who won? Who won? And every one of them will not answer in Poland. They would not answer. First guy says, oh, no, I'm not going to answer that. They do not want to say the word Russia. They don't want to admit that Russia won World War II. A couple of them said America won World War II. And unfortunately, that's what our textbooks pass out as well, that America won World War II. And that's not a lie, but it's also not the only part of the story that only America won World War II. That there's nothing. Oops, sorry. I don't. Somehow I clicked on the wrong one, and I'm sure it probably played because I hadn't turned down the. Oh no, you didn't hear it. Okay, cool. Well, I was clicking on little videos, and one kicked on that was that I had watched earlier. But at any rate, I did want to go through a little bit of the history, and I also wanted to cover, because I like his comments as well. I told you before, and I frequently listen to it, and on this same topic, I listened to this earlier today, and it is from my colleague, one of the shows that I like to watch, that is Alex Christoforou, and he was talking a little bit about this specific issue and Russophobia. And it's pretty funny because this is in English. He has some of the cuts already in, so we're going to listen to several minutes of his program here for a little bit. Here we go. And I hope it's not too loud for us. Let's make sure that it's not first. And get you set up. And here we go.
But what was also discussed and very clearly said by different member states is that any participation in the 9th of May parades or celebrations in Moscow will be not taken lightly on the European side, considering that Russia is really waging a full-scale war in Europe. So I will stop here and I'm ready to take your questions.
This is my video update on this Wednesday, April the 16th, coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with stunning and brave Kaja Kallas and her comments the other day, which I reported on, where she warned EU countries and EU candidate countries, don't you dare go to Moscow to take part in the Victory Day event. Don't you dare go to Moscow to honor the army, the brave men and women that defeated Hitler and the Nazis. Don't you dare go there to mark this very important day. That was her warning. And if you go to Russia, well, then we've got tools. If you go celebrate Victory Day, the defeat of fascism, well, then you will be punished. It is a clown world, man. It is a clown world. We went from Jungle Joseph to stunning and brave Kaja Kallas. All right, the top diplomat for the European Union. She made those comments, and obviously those comments were directed, at least when it comes to candidate countries. Obviously, it was directed towards Serbia and Vucic, and I will get to that in a minute. But her warning, the Nag's Head pub, good place to watch football, Champions League, grab a beer, chill out, close to the beach, just about a minute walk to the beach.
You don't really need to hear that part.
So, directed at Vucic. When it comes to candidate countries, Serbia and Vucic, who did say he is going to attend Victory Day, and also to leaders who have confirmed that they will be going to Moscow that are part of the European Union, EU member states. People like Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, who has confirmed his attendance in Moscow on May the 9th, and Kaja Kallas and other EU officials warned Fico, don't you dare go. So we have a reply from Fico, and his reply is epic. It is epic. What was Kaja Kallas thinking? What was she thinking that a man like Fico, who was shot 5 times, survived an assassination attempt, shot in the abdomen, was going to be afraid of a Kaja Kallas warning? Is that what she actually thought was going to happen? That this man who almost died just about a year ago, that he was going to be scared of this warning from Stunning and Brave? Let me read you his reply. Let me read you what Fico said. He posted it on X, and there is an English version of what he posted. And let me put this coffee down somewhere, and I will read you his statement. Yeah, I think it'll hold. All right. This is long, so let's get to it. From Robert Fico: warning and threat by Ms. Kallas are disrespectful, and I strongly object to them. The EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaja Kallas, is warning EU leaders against participating in the May celebrations of Victory Day in Moscow. She claims that such participation will not be taken lightly. I will go to Moscow on May 9th. Is Ms. Kallas' warning a form of blackmail or a signal that I will be punished upon my return from Moscow? I don't know. But I do know that the year is 2025, not 1939. Ms. Kallas' warning confirms that we need a discussion within the EU about the essence of democracy, about what happened in Romania and France in connection with presidential elections, about the Maidans organized by the West in Georgia and Serbia, and how the abuse of criminal law against the opposition in Slovakia has been ignored. Ms. Kallas, I would like to inform you that I am the legitimate Prime Minister of Slovakia, a sovereign country. No one can dictate to me where I can or cannot travel. I will go to Moscow to pay tribute to the thousands of Red Army soldiers who died liberating Slovakia, as well as to the millions of other victims of Nazi terror, just as I have paid tribute to the victims of the Normandy landings or those in the Pacific, or as I plan to honor the RAF pilots. And let me remind you that I am one of the few in the EU who consistently speaks about the need for peace in Ukraine and does not support the continuation of the senseless war. Ms. Kallas' words are disrespectful, and I strongly object to them. I don't need to say anything further. I think Fico pretty much says it all in that response.
And I agree wholeheartedly with what Fico said there. Who in the world do you think you are that you can dictate what other countries do? I say again that it would be just freaking amazing if Trump, I doubt he's been invited, but maybe something happened. I don't know. I doubt it. But if somebody from the U.S. side went to celebrate alongside, stand beside them, especially because of now what they're saying all over social media right now, after this Kyla's Alice, or whatever her name is. I always get it messed up with her. It's a tongue twister for me. Don't know why, but she's nonsensical. It's ludicrous to say that you cannot celebrate. You can't celebrate a victory day. What? What weird country did we wake up in, or what weird world did we wake up in that these lunatics are holding the reins of who can do what, who can participate, who can't participate, what you can do, what virtue signal you have to pass out to be considered one of the good guys. Nonsense. It's really a horror story and really offensive. Just like what Fizzo said in that blisteringly good response that he provided right there, that was read to you by this other commentator. It was awesome. In fact, I almost want to go back and read it again because it's outstanding what he said, and let's do it. Let us talk about this. I will go to Moscow on May 9th. Is Miss Kaus's warning a sort of blackmail or a signal that I will be punished upon my return from Moscow? I mean, that's a legitimate question, is it not? I mean, it's nonsensical. She's saying that, oh, gee, you're not going to be able to be a member of the EU. Well, if the EU can't recognize that Russia played a massive part, the Soviet Union played an astronomical part, that 26 million people died, and you don't recognize that, you can't put aside your BS differences for one day, for God's sake. It says, will I be punished? I don't know. But I do know that the year is 2025, not 1939. This warning confirms that we need a discussion within the EU about the essence of democracy. Very important, about what happened in Romania and France and in connection with presidential elections, about the Maidans organized by the West in Georgia and Serbia, and by the way, in Maidan itself in Ukraine. We organized that. We are the bad guys. And we consistently want to point out the bad guy activities of the other side. I don't know. I like that he's going. I like that he has elected to say, forget it, screw you, but young lady. Miss Kaus's words are disrespectful, and I object to them. Very well put. My name is Samuel Trapp. You're listening to International Flavor on Damn Radio. I very much appreciate you being here. Tune in every day from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. to listen to my show. Log in to the schedule, damradio.com/schedule. To get the schedule, tonight is a big night for Damn Radio. We have Ike coming up tonight after me. I think it should be. Yes. The Ike Skelton program here in about a half an hour. And I hope that you tune in and listen to him. Always pay attention. Think for yourself. Never believe the government. and always listen to two sides of the story before making up your mind, and other sorts of good advice from Samuel. I very much appreciate you and hope to see you again tomorrow evening. Thank you so very much, and have a very good evening, and make sure to stay tuned to listen to Ike Skelton and his program in a half an hour at 6 p.m. in Missouri. And